Okay, this is our midterm exam study guide. First question, product of two negative numbers is always, sometimes, or never positive. If you multiply, product means to multiply. Positive times a positive will always be positive. So will a negative times a negative will always be positive. The other two, if you do negative times a positive or positive times a negative, both of those will be negative. But to answer the first question, a negative times a negative is always a positive. For number two, you're identifying the mapping diagram that represents the relation and determine whether it is a function or not. What you need to do is you need to look at your ordered pairs. All of your first values are considered your x values. So negative 3 is an x, negative 1 is x, 5 is x, and 8 is x. That means they're going to be in the first bubble, or with your domain value, your x value. So as you look at C and D, notice both of their domain values, their x's just show negative 6. So both of those answers are eliminated right away. We have determined, now that we have negative 3, negative 1, 5, and 8 as our x values, as you're looking at each of the two pictures in A and B, they both match the ordered pairs shown. Now we have to determine the difference between A and B is one of them's a function and one of them's not. Or it says it's a function and it says it's not. So the question you ask yourself is, as you're looking at each x value, does each x value have exactly one y value? That's the question. Does each x value have exactly one y value? As you look at 3, it has exactly one y value. It goes to negative 6. As you look at negative 1, exactly 1 goes to negative 6. 5 goes to negative 6. 8 goes to negative 6. Each of them has exactly one y value. The fact that they're all the same y value is irrelevant. That means that it is a function. The fact that this one says it's not is incorrect. The correct answer for number 2 is B, as in big boy. Number 3 says identify the mapping diagram that represents the relation and determine whether the relation is a function. Again, check your x values versus your y values. Each of these are your x values as you're looking at them. When you see negative 6, 1, 2, 3 in them, this is automatically incorrect because that's not an x value. So it's this one. So you eliminate A and C right away. Um, Notice that the pictures are exactly the same for B and D. The functions are mapped out, or what could be the functions are mapped out exactly the same. We have to determine if they are a function or not. You ask yourself the same question as number 2. Does every x value, and remember these are your x values, does every x value have exactly one y value? As you look at the first one, uh, 8 has two y values, negative 6 and 1. Same thing, remember, they're mapped out the same way, negative 6 and 1. That makes it not a function. Therefore, number 3's answer is D, not a function. Difference between 2 and 3. 2, they all had 1. The fact that they were all going to negative 6 didn't matter. They all had 1, so it was a function. And number 3, 8 has 2 values, or 2 y values, so it's not a function. Number 4, writing it in simplest form. You need to know the factors, or what makes up 18 and 30. As you're looking at your factors of 18, 1 times 18 gives you that. 2 times 9 gives you 18. And 3 times 6 gives you 18. As you're looking at your factors of 30, same thing. 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6 gives you 30. You want to use the biggest one you can find, or the greatest one you can find. In this case, you could have used 2, but 6 is your greatest one that you can use. So 6 times what gives you 18 is 6 times 3 gives you 18, and 6 times 5 gives you 30. So cancel out 6 divided by 6, and your simplest form of this fraction is 3/5. Number 5, writing 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 using it in an exponent. Count how many you got real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 6 of them. So 3 times itself 6 times would be 3 to the 6th power. Okay, adding fractions. Nobody likes to add fractions. The reason we don't is because your bottom number or your denominator has to be the same. You want, this is the difference between this one and one a couple of problems ago. For this one, you want the least common multiple. So as you're looking at multiples for 4 and 10, multiples being when you count by 4. So 4 and then 8 and then 12 and then 16 and then 20. And we're going to stop there since I know that that one's going to go. You do your multiples of 10, it'll be 10 and 20. Your least common one would be 20. So change that bottom number for each of those fractions to 20. Okay. Now here's the part where a lot of people get stuck. Now what do I do? Well, you changed 4 to 20. So in order to do that, you had to multiply 4 times 5 to get to 20. Since you multiply the bottom by 5, multiply the top by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay. In order to change that bottom 10 to 20, you had to multiply it by 2. You multiply the bottom by 2, then multiply the top by 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Now your bottom numbers are the same. Both of them are 20, so we'll keep that bottom number the same, 20. And we'll add up 15 plus 10. Just go straight across. When you do 15 plus 10, you get 25 over 20. Now this is not simplified. In order to simplify this, you need factor of 25 and 20. Again, your factors of 25, you need to look at them are 1 and 25 um, and 5 and 5. So the number 5 is going to wind up going into both of these numbers. 5 times 5 is 25 and 5 times 4 is 20. So cancel out 5 divided by 5 and you're left with 5 over 4 in simplified form. Now for multiplying fractions, you don't need to have the denominator to be the same. The bottom number can be different. Multiply straight across. So what you have is 3 times 7 over 6 times 10. 3 times 7 is 21, and 6 times 10 is 60. Okay, but you can't leave it in this form. You have to simplify it. The number 3 goes into both of them, or the number 3 is factors of both 21 and 60. So 3 times 7, 3 times 7 is 21, and 3 times 20 is 60. Cancel out your 3 over 3, or 3 divided by 3, and 7 over 20 is your simplified answer. Okay, this one's a little tough to see, so I wrote it out on the side or below or something like that on your paper. This is division. So it's 5 over 12 divided by 2 over 8. All division means is to multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply by the reciprocal. And remember, reciprocal is just a fancy word that means to flip it. So keep your first fraction just like it is, 5 over 12. Change division, change it to multiplication, and use the reciprocal. Instead of 2 over 8, make it 8 over 2. Okay, now at this step you would do just like we did on number 7 and multiply straight across. But you can make it a little bit easier on yourself if you cross cancel. So at this step we're going to do what's called cross cancel. Notice the numbers 12 and 8. They share a factor of 4. So as we look at this, we're going to cancel some of this out. This is how it's going to look. We'll leave 5 alone. The number 4 multiplies by 3 to get 12. We'll leave our multiplication alone, and we'll leave that 2 the same at the bottom. And just like 4 multiplied by 3 to get 12, 4 is going to multiply by 2 to get 8. So we can cancel out 4 over 4. Now we can multiply straight across. 5 times 2 is 10. and 3 times 2 is 6. And then we have to simplify 6 over 10. The number 2 goes into both of them. 2 times 5 is 10, and 2 times 3 is 6. Cancel out 2 over 2, or divide by 2. Simplify the answer 5 over 3. You could have also noticed that at this step here, when you canceled out 4 over 4, you could have also canceled out 2 over 2. Notice you got it right here at this step, 5 over 3. Number 9, write as a percent. And anytime you see that word percent, that means per 100. This digit 3 right here, that is in the 100ths place. That's the 100th place, 10ths place, and then 100ths place. So what you need to do is you need to move the decimal twice. So you have 0.63. Move that decimal over once and twice, and you get 63%. Write 60% as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form. Again, percent means per 100. So if you have 60%, that means 60 per 100. Instantly, since you're dealing with tens, you can cancel out a 0 off of the end of each of them, or you can say that 10 goes into both of them. We'll get even past that. The number 2 is a factor of both 6 and 10. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 5 is 10. Cancel out 2 over 2, and you're left with 3/5 in simplest form. Okay, here we go. Greatest common factor. So now we have to deal with factors right here. So your factors of 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. Those are your factors of 24. Your factors of 54, 1 and 54, 2 and 27, 3 and 18. 4 doesn't go into it, neither does 5, 6, and 9 are your factors. So your greatest common factor, greatest means your biggest, common means the same. So the biggest factor that they have the same, biggest one as you look down, each of them is the number 6. So their greatest common factor is 6. Multiples, on the other hand, when you're talking about least common multiple, is when you multiply each number when you keep going by itself, or like counting the numbers. So 6, 12, 18, all I'm doing is counting by 6, 18, 24, 30, 36, and I'll stop there because I know we'll finish it up there. When you're counting the multiples of 10 would be 10, 20, 30, 40. The least common means least is your smallest. Common means the same. So the smallest one that they have the same. The smallest one as you're looking at them is the number 30. So your least common multiple, or your LCM, is 30. 13 says find the perimeter. We'll pick up with that one on the next video.